Well, let's move on that note for the next corporate presentation. Building trust and quality at scale for India's account aggregator era. Well, built on the principles of customer consent and transparency, security, and most importantly, empowerment, the account aggregator ecosystem is redefining how financial information is shared and assessed around all the institutions. Well, let us learn more on this, and for joining us for the next corporate presentation is Mr. Arun Ramamoorthy. He is a VP Banking and Financial Services from Testhouse India Private Limited. Can we have Mr. VP Narayan Murthy? Can we have a huge round of applause for Arun Ramamoorthy? He's VP Banking and Financial Service. Thank you so for joining in. Let's look forward for once again a very important topic to be discussed. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning, everyone. I don't know how this got planned, but I'm probably standing between you and the break, right? My apologies for it. I didn't plan for this, right? So, yeah, thank you. Whoever planned for it, thank you. That probably will give me probably just about time to make my presentation and run away, because I'm sure each of you would be interested in to have your snack break. Anyway, okay. Okay. Thanks for the introductions. Like I said, my name is Arun Ramamoorthy. I'm from Testhouse, and today we'll probably be talking about a topic that is becoming increasingly important in our financial ecosystem, right? Account aggregator. It's just not another integration layer. It's becoming a consent-driven data backbone for a lot of financial services like lending, wealth management, personal finance, investments, right, insurance stuff. So the idea would probably, the question that is pretty important is, with this kind of a background, how do we make the ecosystem work reliably, securely, and at scale, right? So that's probably what we will probably need to figure out as we go along, and that's probably one of the topic of discussions today. Very quickly, before I get into the topic, a quick introduction about Testhouse. We are a quality assurance and quality engineering and digital assurance organization. We have about 25 years of experience. We have a stall in the first stall, right? And again, on a lighter note, please don't be surprised when you see three hairless guys sitting there. That's not the criteria for the organization. We've been working for some time, so that's probably why we lost our hair. But yeah, that's not the joining criteria. Right. Testhouse as an organization, we work with banks, financial institutions, insurance companies, capital markets, right, across the globe. That's what we do, right? And what is the relevance for the topic? Would probably be because the account aggregator, success of account aggregator is not defined by a technology adoption alone. It is probably defined more by trust, reliability, compliance, performance, and customer experience, right? And while you see a lot of quality engineering stuff, I think the keyword for the day would probably be assurance, quality assurance, and assurance on consent, assurance on data accuracy, assurance on reliability, and most importantly, on regulatory compliance, right? Moving on. Right. Now, why do we have this topic of building trust and quality? What is the importance? Account aggregator as a concept, while it started off it was initiated or started off in 2016, I think that's when the Reserve Bank issued some guidelines. But again, in 2021, when it was probably rolled out with a lot more fervor, and there are guidelines, master directions from RBI in 2021, right? And it is no longer a experiment. It is no longer a pilot thought or in a small organization. It is now more into the production scale financial ecosystem, right, where we have quite a few RBI registered account aggregators. We have FIPs live. We have FIUs that are using these services. We have billions of enabled accounts, right? And quite a few, and at least some million, if I can see the number is, 284, so, millions of account linked by users themselves, right? So at this scale, at these numbers, at this scale, right, quality is not about just a API testing, right? It is any failed consent flow will probably impact the overall decisioning, right? Any failed data fetch would impact the overall decisioning, right? And like the punchline says, right, the customer consent collected is just not enough. We need to make sure that it is used correctly, because every consent journey, the success would be only when the right data is fetched, right data is used for the right purpose, and remains auditable, most importantly, because we are going to use customer data, so the compliance part becomes extremely important. So that's probably would define the entire space. Moving on, while we saw the scale in the previous slide, what AA actually does is AA puts customer in charge. And I'm sure for any banker, anybody, any banking organization, customer being in charge is not a very happy thing, right? Customer being in charge could be risky for us, right? Now, anyway, but having said that, the legacy model before account aggregator, the legacy model, traditionally, let's take an example of loans, right? Lending. If a customer applies for a loan, they will have to support it with their bank statements, with their ITRs, with their salary slips, and assuming that the bank statement is all clear, it's good. If it is not, then another set of statements. So that traditional model is what AA eliminates, right? It replaces. In this case, the customer provides the explicit consent, so he is clear of what he is doing, why he is doing, why he is providing the consent, how long is the consent valid, what data can be shared. So all these are controlled by the customers, and that's why we are saying that AA puts customer in charge. He decides what has to be done. Now, what is the business value? What is the reason? What is the benefit out of it? Well, from an earlier, earlier state, this one gives a better ability for the organizations, for the guys who are using for the account aggregator to make use of the data. It is no longer based on just, for example, in MSME, it is no longer based on collateral-based lending alone, right? Collateral alone-based lending. It has been more on financial behavior activities, so more from that perspective. So from that angle, I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's why the customer empowerment is important. But all this has a catch that that entire chain has to work correctly. There has to be a quality assurance across the entire scheme of things. Right. Now, moving on. Right. The consent that we spoke about in the previous slides, it's not just a front-end activity. It's not a front-end tick box. Customer ticks one and then says, yeah, it's all done. Right? It is now, that is just one part or just the beginning of the entire decision-making process. And for a customer, he will probably be seeing only the 3 clicks here, right? Select account, approve the consent, and wait for the decision or get the decision. But from the bank side, right? While customer does only 3 clicks from the bank side, it's probably a chain of 10 steps, right? A classic way of probably or giving a corollary is I'm sure all of us would have used Swiggy app, right? We just select the restaurant, select a dish, and order it, right? It's a typical 3 click. But behind that, there are a huge number of activities, right? There is the payment gateway to begin with. There is a restaurant. There is a delivery partner. There is a route that needs to be done. There is traffic. There is GPS. There is also the customer support who is monitoring this, and not to mention that like any other activities, I am sure there are 5 other management dashboards that are monitoring this entire activity from a time perspective, right? So that's kind of a corollary that that I was thinking of when I say, while the customer sees only this, there's a whole set of other activities that are important, which is where I think the entire sequence or complexity comes into picture, right? Now, while we saw the customer part of it and what is the behind the screen activity, what is also probably relevant would be to see where can it fail, does it fail, if it fails, where does it fail, right? So that's probably what we would want to highlight or show in this screen. I'm not going to read each of these, but yeah, these are probably the different aspects in which it could go wrong, it could fail, right? Customer may not understand the language, that's the UX part, and then he says, and then that's where your distrust commences. Your API orchestration, which is probably data fetching, data mapping, right? That's probably the most important activity. Quality of data itself, right? It has to fetch the relevant data. It has to bring the right data. It has to bring the complete data. So that is where that portion is. And most importantly, once like we discussed earlier, the customer has the control to revoke the consent. So that has to be recorded and audited, so that brings in the regulatory and the compliance aspects to the fore. So that is extremely important, and that's where I think we need to validate the complete end-to-end journey and not just one particular aspect of this AA journey. Right now. As we were working on these slides, one of the points that my own colleague asked, or which probably was triggered by some of the queries that he would have faced. We often get asked, yes, I am compliant, so why should I go ahead, and what is the importance or relevance of quality assurance when I'm complying with the requirement, right? Now, compliance checks if all the controls are present, right? Quality assurance ensures that those controls actually work, right? If we were to talk about a movie theater, right? Compliance requires that there has to be an emergency exit. Yeah, it is there, tick. But quality assurance makes sure that that emergency door actually works when it is required, right? So that's probably the aspect to it. And if I were to bring in the angle of integration, because the entire account aggregator ecosystem works on integration. Compliance makes sure there's an emergency exit. Integration makes sure that there is a alarm attached to the door and it triggers off when the door is operated. And quality assurance makes sure that all three work when it has to actually work, right? So that's the importance of you being compliant, and at the same time, there could be quality assurance issues, customer journeys could still fail. Now, what I have next is this is just an illustration, right, to show what can go wrong, what are the size of business risk that we could foresee. So it's more an illustration. We have taken a very moderate sample size of 50,000 monthly applications, and let's just say 5% of those defects, of those AA journeys, account aggregator journeys fail. We are talking of at least 2,500 journeys, monthly journeys, right? And very conservative estimate of, let's say, 25,000 as the assured revenue per journey in a quarter, that could turn out to be 7.5 crores approximately, right? So that's the gamut, or that's the size of the issue that we are looking at. While this is still illustrative, all numbers can be debated, but the basic principle that we are talking of is, at scale, a small failure percentage becomes a huge business risk, right? So that's probably what we would want to underline as part of this detail. Right. So we've seen what the problem is. We've seen how it can happen. Right. What is the assurance? How do we assure? What is the life cycle, assurance life cycle? There are four main components, like you can see: design validation, build validation, pre-prod, and actual production validation. Right. Now, at the design level, we can validate whether it is the requirements are compliant with the regulations, traceabilities are built in, right? All those basic stuff are there. At the actual build validation, we can ensure that the integrations are working, APIs are working, there are mock simulations that are happening. And of course, the pre-prod is where you actually validate the entire system in the production and make sure that entire end-to-end customer journey actually works. And then moving on, in the assurance, run assurance, it doesn't stop with UAT. It has to be validated even during the production phase. And that probably is extremely important. So we ensure that there are online or production monitoring that happens, performance monitoring that happens, and that there's a frequent assessment of any specific issues or vulnerabilities. Right? It's not it's not a one-time certification activity. It is an ongoing assurance, and that's how trust or assurance is built with customers. Right? Now, while we have seen how it has to happen, this probably is a checklist of items, what needs to be validated. Typically, whenever I present any checklist, right, I definitely get asked questions in terms of, are all these important? Do we need to validate each and every line item of the checklist? My answer or my experience has been very simple, right? The one control that is not validated, one control that is not ensured, is usually the culprit in the post-incident validation. Right? So that is one control you miss, and that typically happens, raises its heads when you do the post-incident analysis, post-incident assessment. So each and every one is important. Again, functional validates what is working, whether it is working. The non-functional validates on the reliability and scalability. For example, we had an recent incident, not necessarily on AA, but on a similar engagement, related engagement in the Middle East, where the customer had implemented a payment channel, and they tested, they validated, everything was fine, everything was working. But come the festival season, when the volumes increased, the entire system collapsed, right? It broke, right? Everything was fine. Like you said, it had compliance, it had validation, it had UAT, it had everything. But then what was not there was one of the checklist items, which is the scalability and reliability at scale. Right, so that's how the entire process works, right? And of course, the last point ensures that we are secure, we are compliant, and we are always auditable, which is extremely important in any customer journey or customer transaction. Right? Okay, I can see I have 2 more minutes to finish this. Yes. Right now, we've seen how it works. We've seen what has to be validated, right? So what we have in this slide is, I would probably say it's a very single or a simple message, right? Any trust that needs to be won, right? It should make sure that the consent is not just collected, it is used and ensured that it works end to end, right from initiating, using it for appropriate data, to if there is a revoking, making sure that revocation is recorded, complied, and played back to the customer. So it is not won by the, trust is not won by the consent collected alone. Sorry. Thank you. Right, Murphy's Law. Something goes wrong when it shouldn't goes wrong. Right, good. Anyway, so, right, so that's the message I would probably want to do. And now, thank you. For doing this, what do organizations need to do? Do they need to boil the ocean? No. We have a simple 30-day, 60-day, 90-day plan. Right, we are happy to share however it has to be done. 30 days, we will measure the current status. 60 days, make sure that we fix or stabilize whatever has to work correctly. And in 90 days, we probably make the process repeatable and operational. That's the kind of framework that we have. That's the framework that we recognize, recommend, and we've been successfully using that for some of our organizations. Right. Right. So that's what I have. I have about 9 seconds left in the timer, but yeah, that still gives us enough time for questions. So, yes, you not necessarily you need to ask me right away. You will find me there in the booth as well. I have my colleagues as well. Anytime, anything you guys can think of, can need additional questions, clarifications, thoughts, support, more than happy to work with any of you. Yeah. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name is Prashant. I am from DCB Bank lending side. My question to is that account aggregator is a very revolutionary concept, taking shape and growing by leaps and bounds. The question is that how many types of accounts do we get shared on the platform? Say, for example, current accounts, saving accounts. Do FIPs and FIUs share the lending account statements like overdraft facilities, cash credit facilities, or any term loan facilities? Currently, I guess they may not get shared. If so, do the platforms have a plan that whether such kind of a statement gets shared so that the lending process becomes smooth? That's my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Valid questions. Like you said, right, it's probably not, or like I said in the maybe second or third slide, right, while the concept itself is about 10 years old, it started off it was initiated in 2016, but probably matured to a large extent in 2021, right, post the RBI master circulars and other stuff. It's probably not in a state where people are matured enough to handle or share all the information, right? What it envisages as an overall space is an open finance ecosystem, right? Today, as we speak, do we have it? No, we are moving towards it. It's not there yet. We are moving towards it. But will it come? Yes, it has to eventually come. Because the fundamental, practice or fundamental underlying reason, right, for this kind of an ecosystem is to make sure that information is shared across not just banks, across insurance, capital markets, taxation organizations, right, which eventually will go back to the government. But yes, that's the kind of end-to-end use case that has been envisaged. Right? Will it reach there? It will definitely reach there. But is it on the right direction? Yes, it is on the right direction. Are we there today? No, I don't think so. Because we are all very competitive. By nature, we are competitive. Okay? I don't want to, even when I write my test case, I will cover my page like this and then only write. Right? So I don't think banks share all the information. They share only what is specifically being consented for. But it has to eventually mature into the place where you are asking about. That's the underlying principle for this entire concept, entire ecosystem, right? So it will reach there. That's my take. Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Arun, for what a fabulous and insightful session. I may now request Mr. Suresh Lalwani, Head Sales, Trade Forex and CMS, CSB Bank, to please join us to felicitate Mr. Arun Ramamoorthy, VP Banking and Financial Services, Testhouse India Private Limited. Come on, everybody, can we have a huge round of applause at least? Come on. Thank you so much. It was a very informative session, very well articulated. Thank you, Mr. Arun. Thank you so much.